This is Chris Graebe with eToro Capital. Welcome to the 5th installment of our 10-part video series about Regulation A. Last time we covered the SEC process and timeline for Reg A. Next, we'll discuss the differences between Reg A, Reg D, and the IPO process. Let's get into it. What is a Reg D and how is it different? Like Reg A, Regulation D is an SEC exemption that allows issuers to bypass SEC registration requirements, although a Reg D offering is a private placement while Reg A is technically a public sale of securities. A major difference between Reg A and Reg D is the type of investor. If you'll recall from earlier episodes in this series, Reg A offerings are generally geared towards retail, non-accredited investors, while Reg D issuers are seeking capital from accredited, high net worth investors and institutions such as hedge funds. As a result of the perceived differences in financial sophistication between retail and accredited or institutional investors, U.S. regulators have set a much lower bar for issuers who want to raise capital from the latter group. There's no SEC review or qualifications for a Reg D offering, only a pretty straightforward filing requirement. Securities may even be sold up to 15 days prior to the issuer's filing of the relevant paperwork. There are also no ongoing reporting requirements under Reg D. As a result, the cost in terms of both time and money for a Reg D raise is much lower than a Reg A, in the thousands of dollars and weeks of time as opposed to hundreds of thousands and months-long process for the Reg A. Lastly, a Reg A raise is capped at $75 million during a given 12-month period. That recently increased from $50 million, which is great, but is still small potatoes when compared to Reg D, where issuers can raise an unlimited amount of money. So how do IPOs differ from a Reg A? As mentioned in prior episodes of this series, Reg A is geared towards non-accredited investors and is highly regulated and is the most expensive form of exempt offering. Yet the cost of initial public offerings, or IPO, where a privately held company makes its shares publicly available for investment and trading, far exceeds those of a Reg A. Although going public through an IPO can allow for greater access to investor capital and thus greater company and share price growth potential, the initial and subsequent costs of an IPO, such as an S-1 filing fees and associated costs that can exceed $2 million. Annual GAAP audits and quarterly reportings required for public companies, greater complexity, and even longer timelines can be good reasons for companies considering IPO to explore other options as well. Reg A issuers are also able to list their shares on a public exchange by completing some additional steps. Being given access to public markets at the cost of an exempt raise can be seen as kind of a best of both worlds treatment, except for one thing. Companies that IPO via Reg A are also subject to the limitations imposed by Reg A. Thus, the $75 million cap will apply. Their traditional IPOs often raise much more, averaging about $280 million in 2019 according to FactSet. As such, this path can be a great option for smaller companies who want to enter the public markets, and many issuers conduct a Reg A with the intentions of uplisting once the initial fundraising is complete. Bottom line, Reg A has a number of pros and cons relative to the other types of capital raising options. U.S. financial markets provide a number of different offering structures so that each issuer can find the approach that works best for them. But the playing field is constantly changing, so it's important to stay up to date on all the latest tools that the SEC makes available for issuers and for investors. For more information, head over to eToro.com.